Time to talk about who's going to the Super Bowl conference championship preview here on the Audible. And it will do a little bit of recaps in the divisional round
Sure.
during these games because we're starting with Washington and Philadelphia. And the Washington side is Jayden Daniels is amazing. Like, that is simply put a superstar. I don't want to hear the Robert Griffin III stuff. He's not that. I don't want to hear like, oh, well, what's it like? He can do it all, and he plays with a calm heartbeat. I actually reached out to some of my Commanders guys, Sigmund, just to be
Yeah.
like, what's going on? Because before the draft, I knew he was the pick from these people, and now that they've been with him for a year, it's like, how does he do this? And the main thing is that everyone believes in him. Now, he also believes in a higher power, so we can get in that conversation how a lot of football players just kind of have to do that, right? But it's Jayden Daniels being so calm. Now, on the road against Philadelphia, sure. Yeah, whatever. You know, we can talk about how the Commander's going to get it done. I just want to bask in the glow that is
Yeah.
Jayden. And unfortunately for you and Lions fans, it
Yeah.
means
Yeah.
kind of got a recap of what they did because what they did was spectacular. Detroit's not an easy place to play, not an easy team to beat. And they went in there and made it look somewhat easy.
Yeah. And, real quick on that amazing divisional game, Dan Campbell, and, wide receiver throwing a pass and, a few things maybe that they could take back. But why are we focusing on those decisions is because Jayden Daniels was basically flawless. And again, I think one of the stats that really encapsulates how remarkable a season is that a rookie quarterback has led an NFL offense 3 times to a game with no punts and no turnovers. All 3 were Jayden Daniels. And week 2 and week 3. So remember, week 1, not exactly stellar. Week 1 was a game that this wasn't a team that you were going to consider very much was coming from. And then Jayden Daniels immediately got things on track. And like you said, Cease, it's the calmness. We talk about this a lot on this show too, as we're going to get into draft season. Keep this in mind. Quarterback primarily is a spiritual, emotional, psychological position. And
Magical thinking.
all of the physical comes from that. So when you hear Anthony Richardson's working with, a throwing mechanics guru, some of that's getting his head straight first. You can't, I guess, Cease, we could get into a bigger conversation here about acting, right? Method acting, inside out or outside in, right? But if the belief isn't there, and Cease, we can talk about the dynamic. You said everybody in the building believes in him, but because he believes in himself, that's why they can believe in him. It's this feedback loop and the calmness. Because another thing that strikes me as we're talking about Jayden Daniels, I've always thought the Serenity Prayer, which I encountered going to 12-step program meetings with my late father. Uh, Control the things you can and accept the things you can't. But that's exactly the problem for your quarterback. It's all the things that aren't in your control. It's scary. It's scary because he doesn't seem afraid of making mistakes. He doesn't seem afraid. His thinking never seems to be rushed or frantic. And we have to give some credit to Cliff Kingsbury here too. Let's mention the name Cliff Kingsbury because we heard it every single time. They weren't hiding it. There was no subterfuge. They were going to go up tempo, very comfortable. So these teams have met twice already. And neither game, I think, is necessarily a preview of what's going to happen in this one because Jayden Daniels, there was that little bit of the season where he was in a slump. I think he wasn't healthy. And then the second game, which the Commanders won, Jalen Hurts got knocked out of the game with a concussion. Kenny Pickett actually played well enough to go down to the wire and required yet another Jayden Daniels pulling a rabbit out of a hat. In the first meeting, Austin Eckler caught 8 passes for 89 yards. Austin Eckler did not play in the second meeting. So that's another potential twist here. Austin Eckler, the running game getting back on track a bit. Remember, the Lions had lost a lot of their defensive linemen. So will that happen again in this one? I mean, I think it's going to still fall on Jayden Daniels' shoulders. Can he continue to play at this flawless level? Something that should help De'Ami Brown, who's probably made himself, I don't know, $5 million in free agency, $10 million. He's a free agent next year with these last 2 games. So now you have another weapon, a downfield weapon to complement Terry McLaurin. On the Eagles defensive side, Kobe Dean being out didn't hurt them too much against the Rams. That was a strange game. That was as far as simulating how it's going to project anything for this game. Quinyon Mitchell's going to be okay after he got banged up. That's a rookie we should talk about also in this, a rookie that has helped his team get this far. And I just see so in some ways to talk about this or try to dissect it or analyze it. Let's just enjoy it. Let's just bask in this as Jayden Daniels tries to become the first rookie quarterback to get to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and maybe, just maybe, Austin Eckler could play quarterback for the Eagles, because I think Jalen Hurts is hurt more than they're letting on. That's just me guessing. I could be totally wrong, and his knee's fine, or it could not be. But I think the health of Jalen Hurts, and then, um, as I put last week, and I can't remember what show, I talk a lot, Bloom, I'm sorry. But I said if Saquon Barkley does something superhuman, then guess what? Eagles going to win.
Right.
Saquon Barkley superhuman. So he is amazing. We get to see Jayden Daniels on one side. We get to see Saquon Barkley on the other. Let's get it on.
Yeah, and that's what we saw from Saquon Barkley against the Rams. It held up at the very, very end, but he did some things in conditions that are really supposed to be challenging for a running back. He even talked about it, how he gets his weight over outside of the range of his base to make some of those cuts. Classic running back shots, right? And he was able to have those 2 long runs that really were the difference in the game. Can he do that against Washington? We'll see. Greg Delimitros is the name of the equipment manager for the Eagles. And Barkley had said he saw Shady McCoy like a 2013 game cut really well and his handling in the snow. And Delimitros was the equipment manager back then too for the Eagles. And he said, "Just give me what you gave Shady. I trust." They even talked about it. I'm trusting the equipment manager. See, so it isn't often. I'm doing this because we don't usually get to talk about equipment managers as we're down here 10 inches of snow in New Orleans. Sometimes those members of the organization can make a difference. I don't know that that's going to be important in this one. I do know that Saquon Barkley is going to have to make some big plays. He's going to have to make some field tilting plays because, as you said, Jalen Hurts, it's a name of a quarterback. It's a sentence to describe a storyline in this game also. And you can't put that much on his plate. I don't think they can do that in this game. I don't think you're going to see A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith play that big of a role in the outcome of this game. Dallas Goedert's banged up. As we're recording this, we'll see what the shape of his ankle is. But even the first touchdown against the Rams was a long scramble by Hurts. So Washington and this resurgent defense, they know what their task is. It's still a weak spot. They didn't really stop the Lions as much as the Lions stopped themselves, and Jared Goff stopped himself. They got that pick 6 in that game. So at least you're playing some opportunistic defense in the secondary. But yeah, you look at this on paper, Cease, and the Washington offense is surging, and the Philadelphia offense, well, Saquon, see what you can do to continue to pull this team forward, because we haven't really seen an all-around impressive offensive performance from this team yet. They haven't needed it yet, but Jayden Daniels says you're going to need it in this one.
Buffalo and Kansas City to round things out. The conference championship preview here on the Audible. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. And Buffalo, man, I've put them in the same category to Detroit. Nice story. We're all rooting for you outside of Kansas City. You better do it, or else I'm going to stop talking about you as a nice story and as a, like, you got 5 AFC East titles. You've seen this matchup before. You got to get it done. And we were talking about the mental status of a quarterback.
Right.
Think of what they did. And we've dropped enough hints on this show of like how the Bills approached Josh Allen after Ken Dorsey was fired and he essentially went into depression because of it. How they handled Josh, getting his head right, and then having it know, like, Josh, you don't have to do everything.
Right.
And now he's playing settled. I said it in the wild card game. Like, if Josh was unleashed, they would have killed the Broncos, and they did. They did it without Josh being unleashed. So we haven't really seen Josh Allen unleashed this postseason.
Right.
Uh-oh. Because it's all that stuff that we remember and Josh Allen making these spectacular plays. It's all still there. If they wanted to unleash hell in Kansas City, they could. And maybe they have to, Bloom. This is their, slay the dragon, whatever moment. Yeah, it's time to slay the dragon, or else people are just going to say, well, you just can't do it.
Right. That narrative, it's competing narratives as storytellers. are gathered here to preview the possible stories we could see unfold. And it's competing narrative, Cease, because on one hand, you have the Lucy and the football. We know Peanuts. It's funny how Peanuts is kids' content now, because I don't think Peanuts was kids' content early on, and it was depressing. Peanuts was Charles Schultz working out a lot of disappointment, a lot of things about being in the world of people that can be disappointing, to say the least. Lucy setting up Charlie again and again and again, and Charlie Brown. Aren't we all Charlie Brown a little bit? Being humiliated because he believed? Or is this, like you said, pull the sword from the stone? Well, how could this one be different when we're looking at the Buffalo offensive side of the ball? Why would it be different? Well, as you said, Josh Allen. I think we could do just a real basic, uh, put the highlights from a Buffalo win from 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, next to the highlights of a Buffalo win this year. How many of the highlights revolved around Josh Allen doing something amazing?
Right.
This year, even the throws that Josh Allen are making, the successful throws, are just within the structure of the offense. It's not like Josh Allen is having to do these amazing things, outlasting the offense, making touchdowns throws with someone hanging off of him, threading the needle between 3 defenders or something like that. He's just set up by Joe Brady to succeed with a plethora of targets. And maybe there's no Stephon Diggs, but what you have is a lot of different ways to attack the pass defense. You can attack outside with Cooper and Mac Hollins. You can attack in the middle of the field with Dalton Kincaid and Khalil Shakir. And you have some speed with Curtis Samuel. You have James Cook, Ty Johnson out of the backfield and the damage that they can do. And by the way, speaking of the backfield, they've got a running game. This offensive line is looking forward to playing big boy football in the trenches. And remember, we've seen over the years that if there's a weakness, you cannot really establish the run and shorten the game against Kansas City because of Patrick Mahomes and the offense putting you behind the 8 ball where you have to score points. Well, Buffalo can really morph into whatever mode on offense they want to in this game. It's just a question of forgetting everything that happened, honestly. Going into this matchup like it's the first time they've played Kansas City in the playoffs, like it's the first time they've gone into Arrowhead, and not letting the ghosts of those games haunt them. As the first time these two teams played this year, Buffalo was clearly the superior team. And if you look at how they match up when Buffalo's offense is on the field, as good as some of these players that are coming on for Kansas City, George Karlaftis, incredible game against Houston. So some of these investments on defense trying to pay off. But Buffalo's offense can present enough questions, a wide enough range of questions, that Kansas City can't answer them all. It's just keeping that even keel emotionally, looking at you, Josh Allen. And see, when can we ever say Buffalo lost in the playoffs because of Josh Allen? I don't even think we ever. I mean, if you look at
Right.
Josh Allen's statistics, Josh Allen this is not a controversial statement. Josh Allen is one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL postseason history. Just if you look at the record, I don't mean wins, losses, or stats. I mean just in the playoffs, do you shrink or do you grow? Do you play your best football or even transcend your best football? Or, sorry, Lamar Jackson, are you going to be remembered for your mistakes? And Josh Allen barely makes mistakes in the playoffs. Josh Allen makes transcendent plays in the playoffs. So if he does that in this game, in addition to all of the other leverage they get from this offense, then really, I think, the pressure goes to Patrick Mahomes. And maybe for one of the first times we watch Patrick Mahomes in the Kansas City offense, that the spotlight's on them. And can they answer Josh Allen in this game?
Yeah. How do they answer the bell when they haven't scored 30 points all season long? And the refs thing, which I won't bring up in terms of like Kansas City is going to get aided by the refs, but it's a conversation. When Pat Mahomes is answering questions about it, that's a distraction. Sorry, it just is. We've been around this game a long time, Sigmund.
Yeah,
Guys don't want to talk about how the refs help them out, allegedly or whatever. But that is in the NFL kind of, mind.
sure.
Everyone's thinking it. Now Kansas City's have to answer questions about it. Yeah, that's going to come up in this game.
Yeah. Well, again, we have competing narratives, right? And I like this because, On the Couch is on a small hiatus, the hiatus we take in the winter until March. But this is an on the couch topic for sure. Because on one hand, Cease, you have this referee narrative, and really a la Belichick Patriots, it can help the Chiefs. Once the other team thinks you're cheating, the refs are going to be affected by the crowd in Arrowhead Stadium, etc., then you're already at a disadvantage. See, I'm reminded of all the stories about the Celtics, right? The Lakers hotel at 2 a.m. Somehow the fire alarm got pulled, right? After a certain number of those things, then when you go to sleep, the fire alarm doesn't even need to be pulled. You're not going to sleep well because you're like, am I going to have to wake up because of the fire alarm? It's going to be some sort of trick, some sort of, I think if the Bills are thinking about this, then it can be to the Chiefs' advantage. But like you said, if the Chiefs are thinking about it, if the Chiefs are saying we have to go out and show that we're not frauds, that it's not the refs helping us, then it can weigh on them. But maybe it doesn't matter because the big headline, as you said, this is not a good offense. This is not a Super Bowl quality offense. This is not an AFC champion quality offense. It wasn't last week against the Texans. And the Texans, see, you can flip a couple of plays in that game, and we're talking about Will Anderson. And we're talking now where the rubber meets the road in football terms, and forget about the mental side of it, is that specifically the calls in the game that the Texans lost were calls that were roughing the passer or being too rough with Patrick Mahomes that affect potentially how defenders get after him.
Mm-hmm.
It actually does make a difference in football strategy if you feel like anything in Patrick Mahomes' vicinity is going to be flagged whenever you're finishing a play. But I do think that this is an offense that Buffalo's defense has overachieved. Buffalo, they have got Matt Milano. So I know Travis Kelce, wow, somehow Travis Kelce finds his prime again in the playoffs. But Matt Milano is a tight end stopper. I think that's going to be an important part of this. And again, that deep passing game. But can the deep passing game even get going with the tackle play for the Chiefs? So I look at this game, Cease, and I think if we have one reveal, if you tell me how one unit or one player, give me one stat, I think it's the Kansas City offense. And I think as you let off so appropriately, how many points can they score? Because that is a situation where we don't normally think of the Chiefs going into a playoff game thinking, well, can their offense perform up to the level needed to win? But I think we don't have those questions about Buffalo in this one. We have those questions about the Chiefs.
Yeah, and Pat Mahomes stopped tempting the football gods by flopping
Ha!
and stopping.
Maybe.
Like he's gamed the slide. Like
Yeah.
you run out of bounds, then you slow down, and then the defender's momentum runs into you, and then you flop. Or you go and you late slide, and then guys can't help themselves and they hit you. And it's like you're either tempting the football gods, and that's not going to get flagged, or someone's going to just take you out. That's how this football's not for the well adjusted.
Yeah.
You don't mess with guys that aren't well adjusted. Okay. Like, "Yeah, I'm playing a little game and until someone says we're not playing that game anymore." So Kansas City, we'll see what you can do, man. See what you can do. I personally want Commanders Bills Super Bowl,
Right. Rematch.
but we'll see. I got a lot of Eagles friends. I know Wood's probably listening to this show, getting all mad right now, but you'll be all right. We'll see. I just want good football. I felt the divisional round gave us good football finally, because the wild card round didn't. So
Yeah.
yeah, Bloom. I just want good games.
Yeah. Well, and if we're going to make a wish, if we're going to make a prayer to the football gods, it is unlike the divisional round, which was incredibly riveting football. Okay. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
It was in riveting football. But let's say that we can watch these games and it will not be about the conditions. No one will say, well, if we play these games in different conditions, the outcome would be different. It will not be about mistakes. Let's have the outcome of these games be about players rising to the occasion, players transcending themselves, not mistakes, not Mark Andrews, not Lamar Jackson, right? Not mistakes, not Jared Goff.
Jared
Let's not
Goff.
let's not have these games come down to mistakes and then not any kind of call. Not any kind of question if you had flipped this call or the refs missed this or they needed to call a flag, they didn't when they could have, they did when they shouldn't have. Let's if the conversation's about the players and who one upped each other because that is where we're at with Buffalo, Kansas City. And that's what we had with Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. This is our Peyton Manning, Tom Brady all over again, where, as people pointed out with Lamar Jackson, there was a time in the narrative of Peyton Manning. Remember Steve Spurrier against Peyton Manning? Peyton can't win the big game, right? Someone's going to have his number. And then eventually he did. And that kind of weekend where the players that rise to the occasion, that's the story as these teams get ready to head down to New Orleans. All the snow should be melted by then. So come on down, everybody. But yeah, this should be one to remember. And dare I say it, Cease, with Allen and Mahomes in their prime, with Jayden Daniels hinting at what could his career hold if this is his rookie year, Philadelphia and Saquon Barkley, and finally we see what he can do as potentially making a case to be uh, one of the best running back performances in the postseason. A Larry Fitzgerald kind of performance, like get on my back. Uh, let's just sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Enjoy it all, and we'll be here for you. I'll be in Dallas and then Mobile this next week for the Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl. Next Thursday, we will have a Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl recap show for you and get into our off-season mode, coaching carousel, snorkel, scuba, submarine. Got it right. So we're always here for you on the Audible and our Football Guys channels, plural. Subscribe to them all. And he's Sigmund Bloom. Follow him on all the socials at Sigmund Bloom. Bundle up. Stay frosty.